You're watching Iowa Live on CW Iowa 23.
Good morning, everybody. It's 11 minutes past 8 o'clock right now. And of course, everybody paying attention to what's happening in 2020. And last week, a lot of people paying attention to some of the laws here in the state of Iowa that were changed to the benefit of animals, Jackie. A week ago today, some of the things changed a little bit for the benefit of animals. We have a very special guest joining us in studio right now. Colin Grace is here. He's the Director of Legal and Legislative Initiatives from the Animal Rescue League of Iowa to kind of sort these things out and let you know what really happened last week and what really needs to be done from here on out. That's the whole idea.
Colin, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Explain what happened last week, because there was a lot of people saying, oh, it's about time something like this happened. What really happened in the state of Iowa regarding animals?
Sure. The big takeaway here is that Iowans want change in our animal welfare laws, and now some of our state agencies and governments are paying attention and making changes. The Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, which issues license to commercial establishments that cater to companion animals, your dogs, cats, animals that live in the home. These are, animal shelters like the League, but also doggy daycares. This is breeders. This is dealers in the state. And what these new rules do from IDOLS is promulgate new standard of care requirements down to what constitutes adequate shelter, what kind of food do you need to be providing these animals, what kind of potable water and how much. Things like that, and it's really making clear what license holders have to do to keep their licenses.
Now, they're common sense things, is what we're learning about. For example, the amount of space that the animal has. There's verbiage now that says the animal has to be able to basically get up and be able to move around a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, the space requirements are now enshrined in these new regulations.
Right.
And what it does is it holds all these commercial establishments to the same standard. It doesn't matter if you call yourself a rescue, a shelter, dealer, everyone has to abide by the same rules. And because it doesn't really matter to the animals if you call yourself whatever you want to.
Right.
I mean, you need to be providing adequate standards of care.
Right. We're seeing a variety of different animals here on the video, and this goes for animals in general, but primarily the laws that changed last week and the things that changed last week. What was that targeted toward?
So these are, like I said, targeted towards the commercial establishments. Things like doggy daycares, shelters, and the like. Just making sure that anyone who holds a license with the state of Iowa has to abide by these new rules. Now, this doesn't necessarily affect USDA license holders. These are the federal licenses, and the federal license holder, like Cricket Hollow.
Right, this is what we're looking at here.
Yeah. So,
was this that zoo?
This is that zoo, yeah.
Yes.
Quote unquote zoo that was taken
quote
down?
unquote zoo is right. I was there the day that we rescued those animals off the property, and
let's ask you that. Since you were there, we heard that the stench was horrendous.
It took me the first few hours just to kind of acclimate myself to what was going on there. I was only saved by the grace of a cold front that blew in and allowed me to not smell it as much.
Really?
I think the word you were about to say, Colin, was deplorable. Tell us about that situation and why stuff like this needs to stop.
Well, what happened in Cricket Hollow is that you had a lack of oversight from federal regulators, and it allowed this zoo to maintain a zoo license despite what was happening there. I mean, the conditions didn't happen overnight at Cricket Hollow. These conditions came over the course of time, and regulators went in, saw what was happening, and continued to license them. This was an institutional failure.
Well, that's amazing that people would be able to do that and just check off some boxes just to continue to give them their license.
Exactly. And we're really grateful that IDOLS is responding to that and toughening up their regulations, but it's still not enough. What we need is comprehensive criminal animal cruelty reform, and that's what we're trying to get passed in the legislature this year.
Now, is this what we've been trying to get passed here for the past couple of years and failing? We've come close. But what exactly are we talking about? What bill are we talking about?
We're talking about House File 737. Right now, it is sitting as unfinished business in the Iowa Senate. They can pass it out of the Senate without amendments and send it straight over to Governor Reynolds for signature.
Okay, and when can they start doing that? Now they're back in session. When can they start doing this?
It's the session right now, isn't it?
They can do it today?
Yes.
Okay.
The first week of the legislature, largely ceremonial. There's probably not going to be a lot of substantive action taken, but what I'm hearing from Senate leadership is that they're committed to getting this passed and it's on the top of their priority list.
Okay, and so what needs to happen? What do people that are watching right now, what do they need to do to help move this along and get this to where it needs to go?
Contact your senator. Tell him or her, look, we want this bill passed. We want it passed without amendments. We want it done quickly, and we want it over to Governor Reynolds' desk for signature. Let's just get it done. New polls are showing that a vast majority of Iowans support these new animal welfare laws, and it's about time we started responding to them.
Now, House File 737, for those people that are completely familiar with it, what will that do?
So what we'll do is clarify the definitions of neglect to make sure that we're holding people accountable to higher standards of care. Right now, the standards are very vague and not sufficient. I mean, it says a sufficient quantity of food or water. It doesn't talk about potable water, it doesn't talk about quantity or quality, it doesn't talk about quality of food. But then also we need to amend our animal abuse law, because under abuse, owners can't technically abuse their own dogs. There's an owner exemption for the crime of abuse. And for torture, prosecutors have to prove that the person operated with a depraved and sadistic intent. That is a completely novel mental requirement that is found nowhere else in the code, and our courts are confused as to what it means.
Yeah, we're talking abuse, and just recently, as recent as last week, we had the story about Toby the dog here, and we're seeing some of the injuries on this animal, and this would eliminate the loophole in the law for this. And I know the person that did this is spending some time in jail right now, but we need to change that, right?
Absolutely. Right now, the way the law stands, this could only be prosecuted as simple neglect, which is a misdemeanor. If you feel that this type of action requires a higher charge and requires a stiffer punishment, tell your senator today to go support 737 without amendments, get it passed, get it done.
Okay, and then this can't happen if enough people respond.
Absolutely. Lawmakers are responding to their constituents and responding to the people of the state of Iowa.
All right, now something else that people talked about is there was a national law that went into effect here recently too. How did that affect everything that we're talking about here today?
Sure. So the federal PACT legislation, PACT, it's one of the first federal animal welfare laws, but it only applies in a certain context. You know, if you're talking about videos or torture that happens between state lines, you know, it's a good step in the right direction. But in terms of day-to-day what happens here in the state of Iowa, it's not going to do
It's really
a
not
lot.
fixing a whole lot.
No.
Here. No, but it is going in the right direction.
Correct. I mean, we're seeing the PACT legislation, we're seeing new IDOLS rules, and we're so close to fixing our Iowa State Code, criminal code, with HF 737. We can't, this is no excuse to back down now. We need to make sure that we're telling our lawmakers, get this done. It's about time. Iowa is 48th in the country. That should be an embarrassment to the state of Iowa.
Right.
I feel like one of the biggest issues we fall in the state of Iowa is we're a big ag state. So when you say animals, a lot of times people put that under the umbrella of our ag animals as well, our farming animals, things like that. What do you say to those people that are still seeing those blurred lines of the difference between a cow and a pig on a farm as opposed to these more domesticated animals that we're trying to protect?
Our bill only affects the chapter in the code that affects companion animals. There are two mirror image, essentially, statutes. There's Iowa Chapter 717, which deals with the livestock animals like you're talking about, and 717B, which is the companion animals, dogs, cats, pets that live in the home. We're not out to regulate agriculture or anything like that. We're not out to try to affect agriculture in the state. What we're talking about are laws that will ensure that our companion animals, our pets that live in our homes, are adequately protected.
So those are two completely different things we're talking about. And just let's not blur those lines, as Jackie made a very good comment there. Let's not blur the lines. There are two different things we're trying to take care of.
Exactly.
You know, we don't want the animals to be abused, period, regardless of what category they fall into. But what we're addressing here are companion animals.
Exactly.
Okay, so get a hold of your legislators, folks. We can get this done. It is that close. We're right there. We're on the cusp of getting something done, but it needs your help. You need to get a hold of the right people to make sure they pass this through.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you need more details about what we're talking about, Animal Rescue League has been behind this and very passionate, as you are, Colin, and continuing to work with them, and we appreciate that, with this subject matter. So if people maybe don't know how to reach out to their legislature or need to know a little bit more information, so they're going in with their best foot forward, they can always reach out to the Animal Rescue League,
Yes.
correct?
Go to the Animal Rescue League website and find the ARL Humane Action Network. There we have instructions on how to contact your legislators, both people in the House and the Senate. And we also will provide weekly updates as to progress in the legislature. So if you want to keep tabs on this bill and you want to know how you can make a difference, go to ARL.org and go to the Humane Action Network website and sign up for details.
Okay.
Colin, thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Let's
Lou.
see if we can get this done finally, okay?
Yes.
All right, it is 8:22 right now, and we will be right back. This is Iowa Live.